All right, how's it going, everybody? I'm not going to be very long. This is a special request video, but I want to thank everyone that watched the channel and that tunes in. This is only going to be pertaining to people that may be interested in the Alesis. This is the CLX 440 model, which is the probably more intuitive model over the 3630. Alesis 3630, which is the most popular Alesis model. Well, Alesis, the only real difference between this particular model and the 3630 is that this has a more in-depth expander section. So it has three things going on. Technically, you have a controllable expander, limiter, compressor / gate. The difference between a gate usually and an expander is designed to basically quiet down parts that you don't want in the mix. Versus a gate, it just shuts it off altogether. You know, so you set the gate, and once it reaches a certain threshold, once the signal drops below a certain threshold, the gate cuts it off. Well, expander, what it does, once it drops below a certain threshold, it quiets it down. Doesn't necessarily shut it off. How fast and how much of a quietness is based on how you set it. So I'm just going to go through some of the features, but like I tell anyone, when it comes to gear, if you are not familiar with a piece of gear, do not buy it unless you know what it does. This is not to be mean, but it's the God's honest truth. Never buy anything if you don't know what it does. But one of the things that you can learn about any pieces of gear is to read the manual. The manual is the best tool for learning how to use a piece of gear, is reading the manual, because the manual will tell you exactly what each function does. But for time-saving purposes, I'm just gonna walk through the features. Now this Alesis CLX 440 compressor works like any other compressor. You have your input, and this is a 2-channel. You got a left and a right, but they're identical. Now you can stereo link these together, and you can actually wear both right or go through both. Or you can bypass it, or you can actually set the features exactly how you want. Now that's all it really is you got your compressor, you got your input level, your compressor settings, like any typical compressor here, and you have your output. And then of course there is a limiter, and then there are controls for the expander. Now expander itself is simply, all of this is just designed to quiet down when the signal's not coming through. Now let's talk about the features right quick. Of course, other than your input level, this is your input level. You can bypass that. Then you have your threshold, like any other compressor. When do you want the compressor to kick in? You set the threshold there. How fast? How much do you want to compress? Is your ratio knob. So if I want to do 4:1 or 5:1 or whatever the case may be, this is your your ratio. How fast do you want the compressor to kick in? Is your attack. How fast you want it to release. It do have a side chain option. Just push that button and it turns on the side chain. This is your release. How fast you want to hear it working. This detect signals how hard you want the compressor to detect the signal. Exactly what that is. And then of course you got a knee, a hard and a soft. In other words, if you put it all the way to hard, that's going to do the most aggressive compression. You put it on soft, that's going to do the minimum. It's going to still compress, but it's not going to be so aggressive. And then you got your output, and then of course you have your limiter. Your limiter is basically how much you want to limit the output. If you put it here, it's going to limit immediately. You put it over here, it's going to take a little bit of time to limit. And then of course the expander, for example, here's my threshold for the expander. This is the expander saying these knobs below here, these second row knobs control the expander. So if the signal drops below the threshold here, the expander is going to kick in. But if I have my expander over here, the signal is not going to, because the compressor is kicking in. So I have to, if I put my expander, the kick in below, once it drops below this threshold, which is probably negative 40 or whatever the case, dBs, the expander is going to kick in. Now, how much do I want to expand or quiet down the signals based on the ratio? That's what the ratio is. How fast do I want the expander to kick in is based on my attack. So my release, the same thing. How much do I want to hear the expander working based on the release, and then of course this is how many microseconds. This is how long I want the expander to hold the signal before the compressor kicks in. Once the signal goes above the threshold for the compressor to kick in, how much microseconds do I want that to hold? If I put it here, then if I put the here, it's going to take a lot longer for it to release the expander for the compressor kick in. It makes this weird thing going on. But if I have it like the hold all the way over here, then once the signal reaches above a threshold and the expander releases, the compressor kicks in, then it won't sound so. It gets this crazy effect. But other than that, you have your how hard and how soft you want the expander to react. And then, of course, you got your output levels. So I got a little loop track going. And I'm going to let you see the compressor working. So right now, you can see the basically the gain reduction meters right there. So let's play it. See how when I put the expander above the threshold of the compressor, see what it did to the compressor? It's quieting down for the over what the compressor's trying to do. All right, let's do a little limiting. Now, if you look, you see how when I put the detect To detect it fast, you'll see, watch the meters. So overall, that's pretty much the as I had that little loop track going. That's pretty much, it's like anything else. You're just working a compressor. It's just that you got a few more functions that you have for your expander. Like I say, your expander is just a quiet. Think of an expander as no more than designed as a quiet feature. It's just a quieter, or, you know, it's like quieter. Is that such a word? A quieter? It's just a signal reducer. That's all it is. It's not really necessarily a gate. It can work like a gate if you really make it aggressive. But you can see, even if I even when I turn the threshold above the threshold of the compressor, it still don't necessarily shut it off. A gate will shut stuff off, but not on a expander. It's just designed to make the signal quiet. That's all it's designed to do when the signal's not in use. That's all it is. So that's going to do it for the Alesis CLX 440. It, to me, sound wise, it's a really clean sounding compressor. It's not a super aggressive sounding compressor. It's an effective compressor. It can be really effective, especially when you really dial in the expander with the compressor. It can be really, really useful. But overall, it has its purposes. And then that's about it. So other than that, thanks for watching. That's going to do it on the Alesis CLX 440. Y'all have a great one.